And we are live. What's up, beasties? It's me, it's Triple B, your friendly neighborhood bearded book beast. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Beast Friends Forever. Woo! I'm excited for today's show and I'm excited for today's guest. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a very cool author who's on today. I've had a lot of people on, but I haven't had someone on with quite this mix of like a really cool creative fantasy book, but also that they have something so awesome that they're doing in their real life and a mission that connects with a fun fantasy book. So let me bring them on. I'm talking about my guest today, Zack Schoppen.
Hey, what's up, Chris?
Hey, welcome. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, really excited to chat today.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Let me say good morning to somebody we got in the chat here. We've got Chris Ritchie and other awesome authors here. Thanks for being here, my friend. So yeah, this is a little bit earlier than we normally do these, but I'm excited that to do it during the day. It works out good for both of us. If you're in the chat, thank you for being here live. We appreciate it. But for everybody watching this on replay, we appreciate you too. And before we get started, in the description, I've got Zack's website and his book linked. So please go check all that out. And you're going to want to after we chat and you get to know Zack a little better today. So Zack, why don't you start us off? Just tell us a little bit about what your book's about. Just give us the kind of the blurb in the author's own words.
Yeah, for sure. So very unique book that I kind of set out to write. So I am an OBGYN. That is kind of my day job and consumes about 60 to 80 hours a week. And I am also a big fantasy reader. And so I've read all of these fantasy books. I watched all the movies and TV shows and just kind of noticed like the one thing missing is accurate representations of like pregnancy and labor and delivery in fantasy. You have an army of thousands of elves, or you have giants or fae, and you're like, where did they come from? They have to have been born somehow.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we never see it represented, and it's such a huge part of our normal world. And so I wanted to change that, and I wanted to kind of bring some representation to women's health and pregnancy in fantasy worlds. So that's what brought me to writing The Midwizard of Cosconia. So a midwizard is like a midwife who delivers the babies of magical creatures like giants and halflings and blood sprites. And there's kind of this land of Cosconia where everyone is living like separate, divided, kind of along racial lines in this territory. And our main character, Izzy, she's just going around using her blood magic, which she has kind of an affinity for blood magic. And she's going around and using that to help orcs who are bleeding after delivery, or a giant whose baby is too big and gets stuck. So all of the pregnancy complications kind of mirror real life too.
It's so cool. Sorry, I just realized I'm like, gosh, why does Zack look so much better than me and so much more clear? And I'm like, oh, I don't have my actual camera. This is just the web page camera. Anyway, sorry about that. So cool, man. And I started reading it, and it's really good. It's an interesting mix because it's got like a cozy vibe to it, which I love. It's got that fantasy feel, which I love. But then it's also got right away, the story opens up with the midwizard doing a birth, and things don't go perfectly, which is reality and something that you see all the time. So I think already you had me hooked because it's got the fantasy feel I like, cozy vibes that I love, but then it's got some real life stuff, and I love when the two are mixed in fantasy books.
Yeah, and I try to make it somewhat similar to real life, that there's plenty of cozy parts, which are fun, but real life is not always that cozy. And I try not to pull any punches with it. And like, hey, bad stuff happens in the OB world and in fantasy worlds too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes sense. It's going to happen. So I want to talk about the cover real quick before we dive into more about the book. So I don't have a physical copy, but I'm going to share my screen so I can show people this awesome cover, and then we can talk about it. Let's see. I'm still getting used to how to share my screen on here. Hang on. Here we go. I just want to show this. Boom. There we go. All right. So there it is. I think it just captures the story and the vibe so well. So tell us a little bit first about how the cover process went for you coming up with the idea, finding a cover artist, working with them? How did that all go for you?
Yeah, the cover journey was honestly probably the most stressful part of the entire process for me. Like the writing was fine, the editing, the marketing. It was really the cover that was tough because, everyone says you can't judge a book by its cover, but that's the first thing we do. And that's kind of the only thing you have to judge a book by it at first glance is the cover. And it's tough because I have zero artistic drawing talent in my body. So this was always going to
Yeah.
have to be outsourced.
Yeah.
And so my first kind of vision was to make it this really unique fantasy cover with the picture of a pregnant giantess on the cover. And if
Yeah.
you've seen my Instagram, like there is a version of a cover that exists like
Yeah.
that. It kind of goes based off what I mocked up. It was just not really met with a lot of positive reception critically. I think it was very out there, and so I can completely recognize that. And it was unique, but I think a lot of people would not have seen it and picked it up off the shelf. Once you read the book and you look back at that old cover, you're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But it wasn't quite as eye catching. So I kind of like pivoted and went with a different company I just found online. And I was like, look, I had some ideas for the cover. They didn't pan out how I wanted it to. I was just like, just take it away. Here's the themes of my book. I
Oh,
talked
wow.
about
Okay.
the tree. It's called the mother tree, which
Yeah.
you'll find in the book. And so
Mhm.
I just kind of talked about the themes and stuff. And this was the first draft they sent me. I was like, I have no changes. I truly I didn't even have
This is
any
perfect.
feedback on it. It was perfect. And
Oh,
I
it is so
continue to
good,
think
man.
that it like in print and hardcover online, it still like totally holds up.
Oh yeah, I got to get the physical copy because it looks amazing. It looks so good, and I mean everything. I love the font. I love the placement of the font, uh, and the tree. And then is that symbol in the middle? Is that like something with midwifery? That's
Yeah,
what I
so
thought.
this actually preceded the entire book. I had this image like in my head that my wife helped me create before I even started writing. So it's
Oh
like
wow,
a wand crossed with obstetric forceps, and
that's
so
so. That's what I thought
yeah,
it was. Okay,
yeah. So
that's so
forceps are like
cool.
these giant spoons that you put on a baby's head to pull them out when labor is not progressing or the baby's really big or something like that. And so it like kind of is this perfect combination of like magic and obstetrics.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it all works together so well. And
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that you were just like, you know what? My idea is not gonna work. So do
Yeah.
your thing. And they came up with an amazing, and I mean, did you even talk about like color schemes or anything?
No, like not
Wow.
even a little bit. And I don't always have an eye for that kind of stuff. And they
Yeah.
clearly did. I already
Yeah.
have them working on the book two cover right now, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question is if you were gonna use the same group for your next book cover for it.
Oh yeah, I get a $50 discount. I did ask
Sweet.
if you get any discounts for getting a second book, and so I get that. Yeah, so I'm gonna have them start working on it. I haven't revealed like the name or anything of the book. I've got a
Yeah.
working name in my head that only my wife and I know about. So over the next couple months, it'll kind of be tapering off like the really big book one push and start getting into book two stuff.
Nice, very
Yeah,
cool. Well, people are loving the cover. We've got another author who was just on my podcast a few days ago. CJ Switzer loves the cover and the story premise.
nice.
And Chris also said he loves the whole concept and the cover's cool. So there you go.
Well, thank you. Really
Yeah, I
appreciate the feedback.
of course. Well, and I like to call covers like yours scroll stoppers, and that's what you
Yeah,
want. Online when people are scrolling, that's one that you're going to see and be like, "Ooh, what's that?" So
exactly.
yeah, I bet you were very happy with that.
Yeah, and I think once it gets into brick and mortar bookstores, like it's going to be the same thing that people are going to see
Yeah,
it on the
people
shelf and be
walk
like,
by. Yeah.
I got to take a look at that one.
What's the spine look like? I'm just curious.
It is just about the same thing. It has like that wand and forceps logo
I was
on
gonna
it,
say,
and
does it have
yeah,
that logo? That's what I was hoping. Oh, that's
yeah,
sweet.
I
Okay.
love it. That logo, like,
Yeah,
really just
it
it's so
does.
cool to me. I'm thinking about getting a tattoo of it.
Dude, you
That's my
should.
next plan.
That's awesome. Where would you get
Yeah.
it?
I've got a couple of tattoos like on my shoulder, so I'm working on like
Okay.
a quarter sleeve. So I think I might just get
Nice.
it nestled in there somewhere. I
Heck
think
yeah.
maybe I'll see if I can challenge my readers and followers to hit a certain benchmark for 2025, and
Oh,
if
there
I
you
get the
go.
right amount of sales, then maybe I'll get the
Get it?
tattoo.
Heck yeah, I love it. Very cool. All right, so let's get back to the talking about the book again.
Yeah.
So you talked about how you're working on book 2. So this is the first book of a planned series, a trilogy. You're not sure how many books yet. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm not much of an outliner, to be honest. I'll
Hmm.
jot notes and ideas from time to time when they pop into my head, but really it's just kind of sit down and see where the story goes. And in my head, I can see a natural progression through about 3, maybe 4
Okay.
books. I never want it to be one of those series where readers are like, okay,
It
you're
just
just
goes on and
writing.
on.
Yeah, like, come on, it's time to wrap this
Right.
up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, probably 3 or 4 books, and I think once you get to the end of book 1, you're like, well, obviously there has to be a book 2 based on the end of
Yeah.
book 1, and so we'll see where it goes from there.
Very cool. All right. And then do you think is this the start of like a world that you're going to tell different stories in different areas, or you think when this is done, you'll move on to something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that this concept in this world
Hmm.
is, I mean, there's so much I could explore in it, like
Yeah,
with
for
not even
sure.
just obstetrics in the fantasy realm, but just like medicine in general. And kind of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
goal was to kind of like invent slash make this medical fantasy genre that I don't really feel like exists yet. And I don't know as much about fields of medicine outside of OBGYN now that I've specialized, but I still go into medical
Right.
school. I remember a couple things.
Yeah.
And so that is what I could see as like kind of getting away from the OBGYN part of it and just kind of like staying in Cosconia or in this
Hmm.
world, but making it a little bit more about just like medicine or healthcare in general.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, dude. I love to hear that. So let's talk about the book a little bit, coming up with the idea and stuff. Um, you knew kind of what you wanted to do. You knew that you wanted to do a fantasy book with um, your passion and everything in it.
Yeah.
But how did you come up with like the idea for the main character and deciding that it should be like a wizard and thinking about magic and all that stuff? Um, how did you figure out the guts of the story when you knew what you wanted the big major part to be?
Yeah, I think the reason I decided it would be a midwizard was because that was what fit best with like the midwife slash
It
midwizard
does. It
thing.
does.
The book was originally going to be called the midwiz, like call the midwife. I just worried
Oh yeah.
about like branding and copywriting and
Mm.
stuff a little bit with that. So
Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
switched it up a bit. And it's also like there's so much technology and stuff that we have practicing medicine. You
Mhm.
kind of have to bridge that gap somehow. And like
Yep.
magic is how that happens.
Perfect.
The magic system in the book is not overly complex or detailed or anything. So, like to practice magic, you need 3 things, which is an affinity. So, our main character has her blood magic and affinity.
Hmm. Yeah.
Skill, which that just practice makes perfect. So, you got to practice it over time. And then intent. That's just kind of this like mixture of like in the moment, like what is kind of the oomph you're putting behind the spell. So that's kind of how this like wizard practicing medicine slash magic came about. And then what I really wanted to do was make the pregnancy complications. Like that is
Hmm.
what came easiest to me. So our dwarves, which are known for being small, their babies are born with growth restriction, which is something that women very commonly have is fetuses with growth restriction. And so it made perfect sense. Or elves, you think about a kind of a stereotypical elf who lives for thousands, if not forever, of years. And so their pregnancies are really long. It makes sense. So their pregnancies,
Hmm.
instead of our 9-month pregnancies, they're 3 years or longer. They struggle with something called post-term gestation, which is when a woman kind of goes past their due date significantly. So I would say that's kind of how the world came to be, is like me seeing these pregnancy issues and complications in the real world every day. And I'm like, this could so easily be translated to any fantasy character.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. I love that. So let's take a little. Well, actually, first I want to ask this: how did you decide on POV? Like, you decided to do third person. Did you ever think about doing first person, or were you always like, this should be third person?
I thought about it. It seemed like it would maybe be too allegorical if I did it
Mm-hmm.
like as the first person. Then it's like, oh, you're just inserting yourself into this
Right.
story. And of course, every author is putting themselves into
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
character and every
Yeah.
word. but I didn't want this to be me. One, I wanted it to be a female main character.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel like I needed to be writing as a first person POV as a female character, but also like, 90% of people going into OBGYN these days are women. Unfortunately, it was not always that way traditionally. But I wanted to make sure that like women and women's health were the focus of this book. And so that's part of the reason I'm like, this is about Izzy, the mid-wizard, like nothing to do with me.
Perfect. Okay. All right. We're going to take a little sidestep and talk about your journey and your mission and everything.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I've got a question for you, Zach. Do you like really cheesy dad jokes?
Of course.
All right. Well, I got a couple really dumb medical ones for you. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So first one up. Here we go. Knock knock.
Who's there?
HIPAA.
HIPAA who?
Sorry, I can't tell you.
It actually took me a second there. I'm like, wait, did he forget the punchline?
All right. Here's another one. Okay. So with you coming on, I was thinking about childbirth, and I've always wondered why they call it delivery. Shouldn't it be called takeout?
It is. I tell people it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, but it definitely is.
That was actually another one.
Yeah, much more of a takeout process.
All right, and I got one more for you that has nothing to do with medical or anything, but you are.
I'll hit you with one after that.
Okay, you are married and you have a wife, so this one will be good for you. So all right, so the other day my wife told me that she was really upset with me and just sick of all my disgusting habits. I was so taken aback that I almost choked on my toenails.
That is gnarly. Wives always bringing us down, right?
I tell you. All right. Hit me with yours. What do you got?
Okay, non-medical, but my mom taught me this was my favorite favorite dad joke. It says, where does George Washington keep his armies?
Where?
In his sleeveys. That's
nice.
One. It cracks me up every time.
That is good. Oh, you said your mom told you that one?
Yeah, that's her favorite joke. She still tells it like it's the first time you've ever heard it. I'm like, no, I do know this one now, Mom.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. That's good stuff. And as usual, people in the comments just love the dad jokes. They just love them. All right. So, oh yeah, they're rough. They always are. Okay, so two parts to this. First, I want you to walk us through what your kind of inspirations and stuff were just getting into fantasy as a kid. Like, was it books, video games, movies, all the above? Talk to us about that, and then get into your journey into writing this book. I know it had a lot to do with your passion for your career in that world. But also, when did you start writing, and then when did you decide kind of to go for it with this book?
Yeah, so I would say that kind of growing up, so I was always a big reader. My parents loved getting me into reading early on. For my 6th birthday, instead of video games or toys, I got an Encyclopedia Britannica set. And I just read through the encyclopedias because I loved it, and I've always loved reading. And so I came from one of those households that was not allowed to read Harry Potter growing up. So that's not what got me into it like it did for many in our generation. I have since, of course, read it and enjoyed it. But I would say probably Lord of the Rings was the big one that I did first, which was pretty heavy to dive into as an 11-year-old. I still have the whole 3-volume set book that I read as a kid.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one that got me into it. And the Chronicles of Narnia was what I jumped into after that. And really from there, I've always been a huge reader. And more recently, with time being at a premium, I'm I just want to dive into a world that is not our own. I love a good nonfiction or a World War II novel, but the escapism is really what I like to have now.
Oh, yeah.
I will fully admit my book is not as escapist just because there is this real world
the realism
there. Especially I give it to my OBGYN colleagues. They're I just feel like I'm at work reading this book, which is fair. They see it every day. Not everyone else does. And so that's kind of like what got me into fantasy. And then I've been part of a couple of book clubs and stuff that have been very much fantasy focused. And then in December of last year, my wife and I took this big trip after I finished my oral board exam, which is when you just like sit in a room for 4 hours with some experienced OBGYNs and they just grill you about every possible topic that they can. So I had like brain dumped and like done that exam and passed and finished it. And so then we did this trip to Argentina and Antarctica actually. And I finally felt like, I'm like, okay, I finished my training. I finished my exams. Like I've had this idea kind of like percolating in my head forever. Let's just do it. And so I kind of just decided we're on our cruise to Antarctica. You got 2 days that you're crossing the Drake Passage. So like, it's only just like waves and sea. There's nothing else to do. So I'm a morning person. I woke up early before my wife. It would just kind of like zone in for a couple hours. That's when I wrote that first chapter. That was back in December of 2024. And really never looked back from there. Actually, that chapter probably changed the least of the rest of the entire book, even though it was the first chapter of any book that I'd ever written. It like the story flowed. And like, after I finished that first chapter, I was like, oh, I think this is the real deal. I think that I could actually go somewhere with this.
Oh man, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So had you ever like written anything like stories or anything just on your own ever before that?
Barely. So when I was like 5 years old, I won this award for writing basically like a 3-page little story, and I got to meet the author of Arthur, Mark Brown, and so got to go to this event where I met him, which was really cool because that was like one of my favorite shows growing up. And then in residency a few years ago, I kind of did just like, it was essentially just like a creative writing NaNoWriMo kind of project. I was stressed out on a hard rotation. And so I wrote this book called Camilla, just about this girl who kind of is on this like amazing race type scavenger hunt around the world looking for clues. So like, I don't think anyone besides my wife will ever read that book or see it because it was very much just like stream of consciousness. But that was it. That was like the only other thing that I've ever done before this.
Wow. Impressive. Because what I've read so far, like it's pretty good, man. Like your writing style and everything in it is really good. So
yeah, I appreciate that. It's definitely a lot of work with editors and beta readers and stuff. But I feel like I definitely found my voice by the end. So when I kind of went back and made my edits, that I really felt like I'd kind of found my author's voice.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. What do you think was like the first moment when you remember thinking, I really want to write a book that puts my two, things I love, fantasy and books with your career? Like, was there like a certain moment that you remember it starting, or is it just a slow burn for a while?
Mostly slow burn, but a lot of it is kind of this like culmination of talking to people outside of the medical world who suffered with a miscarriage or were dealing with infertility. And I have so many like friends and family members who they would come to me with these things because I'm an OBGYN. And so I would be able to talk with them. But they're like, I don't know anybody who's ever dealt with infertility before. Nobody I know has had a miscarriage, or I got preeclampsia and I'm really scared because I don't know anything about it. And it's stuff that I see every day. And, 20% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. So everybody knows somebody who's had one.
Yeah.
And it's just not something we talk about. And I kind of made this connection, like, yeah, we don't talk about those things, but you know what all of us love to talk about is books. Like I'm on Book Talk and Bookstagram and like the residents that I work with, like, we love books. We love talking about books. And so I'm like, maybe that can be what finally bridges the gap. And that person who's like, I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about my struggle with infertility, but who did struggle with infertility is Izzy in the MIDWIZARD of Cosconia. And like, that's kind of a battle that she dealt with. So maybe it's not so hard to talk about those things. Like maybe, and so that's what I'm hoping is kind of the long-term effect of this book, is just to make it easier to talk about some of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that is very true. I like that. And going back to the book too, like you mentioned it earlier, how you have taken some of the things you've seen and experienced and put them in there. I love how and I mean, I can appreciate this because I'm a big fantasy dork too.
Yeah.
So I get this, but I love how you took you take all this stuff with these fantasy species and creatures, and you think about what kind of problems would they have that would match up with problems in the real world. And it's so cool, man. It's like it adds this layer of realism in that world too, where it makes the world feel more alive because it makes sense what's happening to all these different characters. And each one I come across, I'm like, oh man, that makes sense. Like, that's
what
awesome.
I wanted it to be. Yeah. And I want it to be like you could walk into a tavern or a restaurant in any fantasy world in Middle Earth or in Narnia, or go to Hogsmeade, and you look around the room and it's just like these are like kind of your stereotypical fantasy races of elves and fae and orcs and humans who, you know, as always, have no particular talents or special abilities, but we are adaptable is usually our skill. So so that's just kind of how it should be. It's like, of course, when you look around a restaurant full of giants and orcs and fae, just like if you did here, there's going to be someone pregnant. That's just how the world works. And so that's kind of what I wanted it to feel like.
Oh, nice. All right. So I want to sidestep again and talk about writing process with you. But before we switch to that, two things. One, I got to shout out another guest we had pop in here. Another awesome indie author, Timothy Wolf. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks for joining us.
So every day on my channel, I do a question of the day, and I like to ask my guest what they would answer. So my question of the day from today was, what is the furthest into a book you've gotten before it really latched onto and got hooked into and gave you a positive feeling about the book at the end? Like 25% in, 50% in, 75%, or not even until the end. What's the farthest you've made it in a book that you finished where you were like, and then all of a sudden it just got a hold of you?
You know, it's hard because I feel like Sanderson changed the game with that. I feel like if you would ask, if you asked me about the payoff about a non-Sanderson book, maybe 60% is the most that I'm willing to put up with for like kind of that payoff. I mean, with the Sanderson books, like sometimes you get 80 or 90% in, and you still are not fully convinced. But I would say I would say about 60%, because that's how fantasy works. And I realize that when you're doing the world building, you just can't really get into the heart of the action and the climax and stuff until your world has been properly built. And so, especially now that I've written a fantasy book, that makes me give even more grace to authors to be like, hey, there's a lot of legwork you have to do before this climax even makes sense.
Oh yeah. Well, especially in book one, right? You really have a lot of layering to do to make it all make sense. And then going forward, you can really play in that sandbox, but you got to make it first, right?
Right. Like I see Empire of Silence on the shelf back there. I read the first 4 of those, and like I didn't feel like it really started paying off until the 4th one. That's when I really started feeling like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Like the first one, I kind of knew because I was late to the party. So, you know, everybody says
it's like a history
the first one,
almost.
it's beautiful writing, but it's and then it's like the second one near the end, it got a little dark and twisted, and I'm like, ooh, all right. And then the third one had a lot of action, but I just finished the 4th one, and I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
Exactly.
So I'm right there with you. Are you caught up on Sanderson, like the Stormlight Archive and stuff?
Yep, I finished Wind and Truth. I had to actually set that one down for a while and come back to it, because I mean, if you guys ever see me releasing 1,400-page books, just tell me to maybe
That's
get
insane. That thing's a beast.
It's crazy.
All right, cool. So here we go. We got a question here. E.L. Montague's here. What's up, my friend? Thanks for being here. So Chris is gonna ask you this. Okay, Timothy Wolf, who was in here, his books all have like lizard people in his fantasy books. So he usually always asks if there's lizard people in the book. So Chris is asking are there any lizard people in the book or future books? And do they give live births or in eggs? Oh, that's an interesting thing.
That is a great question. There's not yet, but as the world of Cosconia expands, like I will be adding more and more different creatures in each book. So I've already added several new ones in book 2, and so I
Nice.
like the idea of lizard people. As far as I would think eggs would make sense to me.
Yeah.
The mermen in the book do lay eggs. They're called
Oh,
megs, of
nice.
course.
Yeah.
And so I think probably eggs. And then you kind of have to decide, like, all right, what pregnancy complication is there? Like, do the eggs hatch too early, or is the shell too soft, or is it something that the eggs are too big to
Yeah.
lay, or something like that? So then I'd have to do some brainstorming. Is like, what real world pregnancy problem could I take and make it kind of like
Yep.
transfer into this lizard person?
Yeah, that's there you go. Keep it up in the old thinking
Oh,
cap there.
I will. I
There
love
you
the
go.
idea. Somebody suggested centaurs for the second book.
Oh
I
yeah, that would
was
be
like,
interesting.
maybe their complication is they're born the wrong way, and instead of
Yeah.
a human on top and a horse on bottom, it's the other way
Ooh,
around. The horse
yeah.
head
I
with the
like that.
human body.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, yeah. That's there's so much you could play with. That's
There's
so
so
true.
much. I know.
Ah, all right. So let's talk about writing process. So the first question I usually ask, and I kind of already know because of something you said earlier, but
Yeah.
I'll still let you expand on it. So there's kind of a spectrum of authors. You have a pantser who just sits down and writes, doesn't plan
Yep.
anything, just goes. You have a plotter who outlines everything meticulously, doesn't stray from it. Do you feel like you are somewhere in the middle, or are you all the way? Because you mentioned how you don't outline much. So are you like all the way to pantser, or do you feel like you plan some out, so you're more like in the middle?
For this book, I planned really very little, I would say. Like the first draft of the book didn't even have the villain that the final draft
Oh
has.
wow.
Like, so that was something that I got to the end of the book and I'm like, I like a lot of stuff in here, but the villain arc sucks. It's just not good. And so I like totally rewrote and revamped the villain arc. And I think that is what took the book to the next level. And I don't
Nice.
know that outlining would have changed that. I
Right.
don't know if it
Hmm.
would have made it better. I think I needed to get to the end and be like, okay, this is what needs to change now.
Yeah.
I think that once you go forward in a series, you can't get away with that anymore. Like book 1, you're not tied to anything, you're not bound to any plot lines
Right.
or have any threads to wrap up. So I would say for going into book 2, like I had to really start writing some things down and planning some things a little bit better. And I would imagine I'll have to keep on doing more planning and less just writing, which makes sense,
Yeah.
I think.
Right. Right. Did you ever have, when you're writing book 1, did you have any events or any characters or anything change along the way, because you're more on that pantsing side where you can kind of listen to the characters in your head and kind of change things as it goes? Did anything change? I mean, you mentioned the villain story, but did anything change while you're writing, why you're like, now that I've written this character, I don't think they do that, I got to do this different, or this character should get some more page time or less, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say the two big examples are like the main male character. I didn't think was going to be redeemable enough
Mm.
after like the original actions of the
Yeah.
first book. And I was like, people are going to hate him and I need to dial it back a little bit. And I'm glad that I did. And then the other one is, so actually the original chapter 2 of the book was I jumped way like far into the future, and it basically was like an episode of Scrubs, like in like a fantasy hospital setting. Like there's
Oh,
interns
nice.
you're
Yeah.
rounding and stuff, which I might come back to someday. But like it was too much of a jump, and I was
Yeah.
like, I just want to explore the past and kind of build
Hmm.
this up before I like do anything crazy with like
Right.
starting to reveal the future. So I still have that chapter set aside somewhere. It might be revisited someday, but like that was the thing where I was like, we got to really dig into the backgrounds of these
Yeah.
characters before I start
Hmm.
showing the future.
Right. So yeah, that reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you. So what would be like the setting of the book? Is it more kind of like a medieval um, time, or is it a little more advanced than that, but not obviously not modern day? But is it kind of that classic fantasy setting?
Yeah, I would say classic medieval, like the technology, like there's no electricity and there is metal, but it's, just swords and shields and that kind of thing for the metal. So that is it. And then kind of, I hope to really like progress the technology somewhat as the book goes along. One
Yeah.
of the interesting parts of this book that you have to think about that I didn't really consider in the first place is if you're dealing with births, like one, that automatically makes the time have to be longer. This book can't
Yeah.
take place over a couple of days. Like
Right.
pregnancies
Yeah.
are long. And
Yeah.
then if you want to ever have those children who are born be
Mhm.
any sort of main character and not be just
Yeah.
a baby, then you got
Right.
to have another 15 or 20 years of
Yeah.
time passing for your
Mhm.
characters. And when you have
Mhm.
wizards and changelings and elves, like time frame and
It's a little
lifespan isn't as
different.
big of an issue
Yeah.
exactly. But it's something to still consider as like the scope of the book has to be a lot bigger when you're dealing with like
Yeah.
pregnancy and childbirth and growing up.
Yeah. Very true. Um, have you noticed working on the second book, is your process still the same? Did you plan a little more now, or are you still kind of doing it the same way? Because that's just what fits for you.
Yeah, I know where it starts and I know where it ends. I would say
Mhm.
that is the difference, which I didn't know
Yeah.
either of those things for book one. I had no
So
idea.
that's
So it's
good.
it's something. So everything in the
Yeah.
middle is kind of up for grabs, but I know where it needs to go because I know where I want book three to start. So I
Yeah.
guess I already have the start of that one too. But everything in the
Nice.
middle is like I've got a point A and point B,
Mhm.
and of course the journey between those points is going
Yeah.
to be very circuitous as the hero's journey always is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as a reader and as someone who's writing and wants to write books too, I think that that is like that sweet spot where you just kind of know the ending, or you know certain scenes, and then
Yeah.
you get to almost experience the story for the first time yourself. And
Yes,
I
you
feel like that
do.
makes it more fun,
Yeah.
instead of being like, all right, I know everything that's going to happen, I'm just going to transfer it to here,
Yeah,
and
like,
and I
it's
think
cool when
that's
you, like,
cool.
write something and you're, like, laughing at something that you just
Yeah,
wrote. You're
yeah.
like, "That's classic Izzy, of course she would say that," or whatever, and so that is really
Yep.
fun. Like, I feel like I know these characters at this point,
Yeah.
like, I could grab a beer with
Oh yeah.
them.
Yep, yep, that's awesome. All right. So next question. There's two parts to this one. So the first one is when, and maybe it's more for book two now, but even with book one, but maybe more with book two. Now that you have book one out and you're working on book two, you kind of
Mhm.
know generally when you want it to come out.
Yeah.
Um, are you somebody that sets like daily or weekly writing goals? Like, I want to try to write this many words per day or this many per week, or are you just like, I'd like to release it by that time. I'm busy. I'm gonna write whenever I can.
Yeah, no writing goals ever. I
Yeah.
just feel like with my job and how many hours
Hmm.
I work and the unpredictable
Oh
nature,
yeah.
because a lot of times it'll be like, okay, if I've got a 24-hour shift or I'm going to be on overnight, if I don't have a crazy night, then I can sleep for a couple hours and
Yeah.
get some writing done. But if the night is really rough and I just need to like sleep and chill all day, I don't ever want to put any pressure on
Yep.
myself in that
Perfect.
regard.
Hmm.
And I have the freedom with a very solid day job of like I don't need this for my
Right.
like existence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, never any specific writing goals. Like to me, like I wanted book one out by the end of 2025, and I wanted book two out in 2026 sometime. And
Yeah.
so that is like the vague goal, and I'm just trying to show myself a lot of grace in that like it's my first job is basically like two full-time jobs, like with
Yeah.
working like
Yeah. It
60 or
is.
70 hours a week and
Yeah.
weekends and stuff. So with this kind of writing project, I never want to turn it into another task that I have to check
Yeah.
off. I've got plenty of those.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say you really do need to keep it something that's fun and almost like another way for you to escape all the
Yes,
stresses of your
exactly.
job, because your job has a lot of stressors and can be very emotionally taxing,
For
I'm sure,
sure.
sometimes
Yeah.
with what you have to go through. So yeah, I think that that's definitely the way to do it. So keep doing
Yeah.
that, because I'm loving what I read so far, and when
Good.
I get done, I'm gonna want that next one. So you keep
Yes,
doing what you're doing.
that's the general consensus when folks finish book one is they're like, I've got to get my hands on the next one.
Nice. All right. Very cool. And now the other part of that, when you do write, now
Yeah.
obviously with your busy schedule, you might write at the hospital or wherever. But if you could choose where to write, are you like a creature of habit where you talked about getting up early? Like, would you write in the morning? Do you have like an office space you like to write in that you prefer to be in? Or I mean, you kind of have to just write whenever and wherever you can. But if you could
Yeah.
choose, what would be your preference?
Honestly, like my favorite spot is we've got like a small balcony in our condo, and so
Oh,
it's
that's
there's
nice.
not even like a nice view or anything. It's just like a hotel and a courtyard. But
Yeah.
it's I like sitting on the balcony with a cup of
Hmm.
coffee and with the dogs. They love being out there,
Yes.
and so that's probably my preferred time from like maybe 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 in the
Hmm.
morning. I just like after noon or 1 p.m., my brain just does not work
Yeah.
in that capacity, and
Yeah.
so I'm just such a morning person. It's painful, is what my wife tells me. So yeah, early morning, quiet, headphones in, like
Yeah.
mostly nobody else is up if it's a Saturday
Mhm.
morning, so I'm not getting emails or text messages. Like that's kind of my sweet
That's
spot.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very cool. All right. And then so for the next question, I usually ask about research because everything nowadays can be done on Google, but you
Yeah.
have so much of your own knowledge that you've gained for your books. Um, but are there people like in real life experts in different things that you bounce things off of or talk to people about, or books that you've looked in, or do you do a lot of it just from yourself or Googling stuff?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot, mostly just because I'm trying to keep it very much like a superficial level so
Hmm.
that it's more accessible.
Oh
So when
yeah.
I'm talking about the basics of diabetes and pregnancy or
Yeah.
preeclampsia or twins, like that stuff, like I know in my sleep, and so I don't
Right.
really have to do a lot of that. If I were to talk about some complex condition,
Yeah.
antiphospholipid syndrome, that I don't know all the diagnostic criteria, something like crazy like that, yeah, I
Yeah.
would need
Yeah.
to consult an expert. But I don't really feel like I need to dive into that kind of stuff in the book.
Hmm.
Though the other day I was like trying to brainstorm. I was like, what pregnancy condition do I want this like race or this character to have? And so I just opened up one of my old OB textbooks, Williams Obstetrics, and just like
Yeah.
scrolled down to the glossary of conditions. So I'm like, oh, I think this one works actually.
That's awesome. Nice. All right. And then last question
Yeah.
is, when you're writing, do you need it to be completely silent, or do you ever listen to music? And if you listen to music, does it need to be instrumental only with no lyrics?
It depends what it is. If it's like
Hmm.
my cozy music that I've listened to 1,000 times, like then I can
Yeah.
just have it on in the background. A lot of times I like instrumental. I like movie soundtracks, so like Inception soundtrack, Lord of the Rings
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack.
Oh,
Those are
nice
those are
ones.
fun
Yeah.
to listen to.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I'm a silence is golden person. I happily. This is probably a trick I learned in med school when I would just sit there for like 12 hours, no interruptions, no headphones, just reading and studying. So I think that
Hmm.
I maintained that ability, and I would rather just kind of like lose myself in the story and in the book and
Oh
not
yeah.
let music distract me
Yeah.
from it typically.
Nice. All right. I like it. Okay, so we'll switch gears here, and I got some questions for you for us to get to know you outside
Great.
of writing. But before we do that, I always do a little riddle. So let's see if you can solve it.
Okay.
Um, tell me when you're ready. Are you ready for
Let's
this?
hear it.
All right. All right. And then everybody in the chat, feel free to shout out answer if you think you know what it is. Oh, real quick, Ellen Holmes, another awesome author, is here. Thanks for being here, my friend. All right, so in the waiting room at a doctor's office, there are a 30-year-old policeman, a 52-year-old woman, and let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay. There's a 52-year-old woman, a bus driver who's 65 years old, 30-year-old policeman, and a 26-year-old pregnant woman. Who is the youngest one there?
This might get into somewhat of an ethical debate. If we're counting fetuses, then I would have to call it that one. Is
That
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 the
is
answer?
that is the answer. The baby of the pregnant woman. Yes, that
Yes,
is
yeah,
the
I'll
answer.
I'll I'll call it that one then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we don't know how. Yeah, we don't know how far along there, but
Right,
they
she could
always.
be due tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's one of those ones they try to trick you by like mixing it all up with all these different age,
exactly.
their
Yeah,
professions, and then you're like, well, isn't it just the 26-year-old? But
right.
so there you go. Nicely done.
I
We
like
get
it.
a let's see. We get a round of applause. because you solved it so quickly. Nicely done. All right. So let's see. And I think people in here got it too quickly. Oh, here we got another awesome guest here, Curran. I always say your name wrong, Curran. I'm probably still saying it wrong, but thanks for being here, man. Another awesome author. All right. So first question, we're going to start off with an easy one.
Okay.
Maybe. Sometimes this is hard for people because they can't decide, but what's your color?
Orange. It used to be blue, and then I'm like, too boring. That's why I got the orange hat on right now. It's like nobody picks orange as their favorite color.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I like it. All right. Next up, what's your favorite food? So if you get to pick where you guys are going out to eat, what kind of food are you gonna get?
Oh, I guess going out to eat, because I was gonna say like Sour Patch Kids or buffalo chicken. Those aren't necessarily something you get.
Those are tops for me too. Those are good.
Those are great choices. I love like pizza and wings. I know I'm like very classic American in that regard, but like if just a sports bar, Cubs game on in the background, like good pizza and some wings, that I will always feel that.
Nice. Ooh, a Cubs fan you are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was a huge Cubs fan, so yeah, they made the playoffs.
So how'd they end up? Okay.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes this year.
Nice. Did they win the division or no?
They did not. They fell behind Milwaukee, which my wife and I lived in Milwaukee, and
that's right.
So the Milwaukee does have a special place in our heart, but we'll always be our rivals.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big Tigers fan, so we didn't win the division either. We had an epic collapse.
Pretty big collapse. That is correct.
It's pretty frustrating.
A historical collapse, I think people are calling it.
Yeah. Oh, those dang Guardians, I tell you. All right. But we'll see what happens. We'll see. It should be a fun week for both of us then.
Yeah, it will be.
Fun stuff. All right. All right. Next question is, you have to put on your thinking cap here. Okay. What was your first job you had that you got a paycheck for? So not like helping out with your parents or whatever, but like your first real job.
Yeah, I would say probably lifeguard at the school. Okay. So yeah, we got to be either in our junior and senior year, we could either go to gym class or be a lifeguard at the pool. I was like, well, obviously I will be choosing lifeguarding.
Yeah, I would have done the same.
Yep. And so then, did that after swim practice. So it's funny, my days as an OBGYN are probably shorter than some of the days I had in high school, which was swim practice at 5:30, school all day, after practice, lifeguarding till 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So those are some long days in high school. So I set myself up well for my future career.
Yeah, you were used to it. Jeez. When did you do homework? Just like in between all of that?
I guess so. I that's a good question. I didn't really think about that. I'm sure I had to have done it at some point. I guess I just didn't sleep, but I value sleep very highly. I know some medical people are like, I can survive on 4 hours. I cannot. I need my 7 or 8 hours.
That's good. Well, as all the patients, I'm sure, like, yes, that's what we like to hear. Be well rested.
Yeah, I do actually. I frequently have patients ask me, like, on the morning of their surgery, if I like got good sleep last night or if I got good rest. And it's not something I would even ever think to ask my surgeon, but it's a very fair question.
Yeah, that's true. It is for sure. All right, next question. What was your first car? What was your first ride?
First car. So this, I kind of have a cheat on this. My dad was, he started his own like small used car dealership.
Okay.
So we were kind of just like, we would take a car from the lot, drive it for a week, and then a customer would buy it. And so you just have to like dump all your stuff out and bring it up. So I switched a lot, but 2003 Jeep Grand Cherokee was my first one. Ooh. That was the one that I got just temporarily when I was 16. And that was fun.
Okay. What color was it?
Like tan. It was like the ugliest car, and it was like one of those things that every parent should do. It's like, here's like a cheap, ugly car with a bunch of miles on it. That yep, that was exactly it.
There it is.
Yeah,
Zach riding around doing the lifeguarding and a million things at school.
Yeah, I didn't wreck
actually, not riding around, just sitting in the school parking lot.
Mostly that. Yeah.
You said you wrecked it?
No, it was just in case. That's why they got the
credit.
Just in case. I kept that one
just
pretty
in
intact.
Case. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yep. There you go. Speaking of school and rec, this is completely unrelated, but this morning when I was dropping my kids off in front of the high school up the street, it's like just crazy busy, and I'm looking at the light and I'm like, what's going on? Somebody had rear-ended somebody else right in front of the school in the traffic, and I'm like, oh, that would be the worst. But then I just drove past, like, oh,
melts down the
everybody's
whole
fine.
system.
Oh yeah, it was a mess. All right, next question. So we know you have an awesome job that you're really good at. You're a great writer, but what is an hobby or a talent that you have that we don't know about?
That's a good question. Those are the big ones for sure. I don't know if I have many besides that. Maybe trivia, honestly, would be the next big thing. I've done a lot of trivia nights, pub trivia kind of things, and I love Jeopardy. When my wife and I walk our dogs, there's this website that has every Jeopardy clue ever written. So she just reads me Jeopardy clues, and I answer them as we walk. So trivia is very near and dear to my heart.
Oh man, you got to go on Jeopardy then.
I've thought about it. I was thinking after this book launch, I might try to take the test and see what happens.
Heck yeah, dude, go for it. That's awesome. Oh,
it's funny. You got to be quick for Jeopardy trivia.
Oh,
like bar trivia, you got a little time to think, but like you got the buzzer in Jeopardy trivia, you got to be like ready to go.
You do. Sometimes you got to roll the dice, even if you're not sure if you're right? Because sometimes people answer and you're like, oh,
yeah. Or you trust that you're gonna think of it when that buzzer runs out.
I know,
but that's scary.
I know, yeah, for sure. All right, awesome stuff. All right, next question. What are some of your favorite movies or TV shows, or do you even have time for TV shows and movies?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm a pretty big TV person more than a movie person.
Yeah.
Lost is definitely my all-time top favorite TV show. Both of our dogs, Desmond and Penny, are named after Lost characters.
Oh, nice.
We had a Hurley growing up and a Sawyer growing up. So like all of our family dogs. So we're a big Lost family.
That's cool.
My wife and I just finished Mad Men, which I've seen a couple times. Actually, a really great show. Very good portrayal of the 60s.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to watch because I would say things were much different back then.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like they're not all that different.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, those are probably my top big ones. And then if anyone who's read the book will notice that there are plenty of Shrek references littered throughout the book. So I'm a big Shrek fan. Pirates of the Caribbean, another favorite one that I have referenced in there a few times.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. Those are good ones. All right. When you were younger or now, were you ever a gamer? Did you ever get into video games at all?
That was like the one thing that I never really got into. Part of it was we weren't allowed to play a lot of video games growing up. And so then I just kind of missed the boat on it.
It just wasn't your thing.
I will play like Mario Kart and Mario Party and stuff like that. But any of like the heavy video games, I'll try to play Halo with my friends. It's embarrassing. I get crushed and they're like, okay, we can't play this with you anymore. I'm sorry.
You're out. That's fair. Well, it would probably be a bad distraction too for you.
Exactly. I don't need to drop a bunch of time into it. Though they do say that people who play a lot of video games are sometimes better at surgery or better at laparoscopic surgery.
Oh, because
they have a little bit of better. Exactly. So maybe there is some benefit if you want to be a surgeon to playing video games.
There you go. You heard it here, people. All right. What about you mentioned earlier Lord of the Rings, Narnia. What are some of your favorite books that you have read through time, and like books and authors that are some of your favorite? And then I got another question about books after that.
Yeah, I would say that in like the past, decade or so, some of the top series I've read, I see Red Rising on your shelf. Love Red Rising. I've read it, listened to it. Like I think those are like going to be all-time classics for sure.
Same.
So I really love those books a lot. And then outside of the fantasy world, my favorite book of all time is called The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. They made it into a movie.
I never read it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's inspired by a painting that they have in the Netherlands. I actually got a tattoo of the goldfinch.
Nice.
Because it's like my favorite.
Oh, that's a sweet tattoo.
Yeah. And so that's really good. It's a slow book and not a lot happens, but the prose is just like so beautiful. I actually tried to pick it up a couple months ago. I had to put it down because it's just so much better than my writing, to be honest. And I was like,
I don't want to see this.
Yeah. And this author, she's released 3 books, all 10 years apart. She worked hard on it. She deserved it. And I don't have the time to do that. But I just love how beautifully written it is. Like, she can describe a wall for 3 pages and I'll like finish it and be like, geez, that was beautiful. But it's a little slow.
Oh, that's crazy. That's awesome. What was the last book that you read?
The last book I read, I just picked up this like Kindle Unlimited thriller series. It's like
nice.
this Tom Walker series or something like that. Very much just like pop, like thriller kind of thing.
The popcorn reads. Yeah,
exactly. I'm like,
those are so fun sometimes.
Right. Sometimes you need something you can blitz through in a couple of days. You don't have to use your brain too much. And I really respect an author who can do that, who can write a story that you have to keep turning the page. But it's not overly complex either. You're not trying to follow different threads and things like that. So I need that sometimes.
Yep. All right, we'll wrap it up here with some rapid fire questions. All right.
Sweet.
So first one, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Haven't really seen either. I'm
you
sorry.
Haven't seen either?
There was a lot of stuff that we were not supposed to or allowed to growing up. So I'm still catching up a little bit on all that stuff.
I would say if you like Sun Eater and Red Rising, eventually you should watch some Star Wars. I think you'll dig it.
Yeah, I've seen like a few here and there, so that probably is what I would choose.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Well, this one you might not have ever gotten too much into these either, but DC or Marvel?
Definitely Marvel at this point.
Okay.
I wasn't a comic books person, but definitely have pretty much seen all of those movies at this point.
Those were good.
But we'll see with the new James Gunn Superman.
I know
really likes that. So
me too.
We're going somewhere with it.
I know. I like it. All right, cool. All right. So my last 2 questions have to do with food. So first one is, what's the better tasting grape? Red grapes or green grapes?
This is a debate in my house. I'm red grapes. My wife is green grapes. So we do have to alternate a little bit. But I don't know. I just don't get it.
I don't either. My wife loves green grapes, and I'm like, red's so much better. They're sweeter.
That's a grape. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to be. I'm with you.
Yes, finally. Everybody says green. I'm glad someone finally said red.
No way.
And then the final question is actually a good one because you said pizza and wings earlier. So does pineapple belong on pizza?
I used to be very fervently against it, but I've had some wacky stuff on pizza in my day that I enjoyed. So pineapple is not for me on pizza, but I've eaten crazier things on pizza.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to judge.
Each their own.
Yeah.
I like it. Very good. Very good. Nice job, man. That was fun. All right. So we're coming up in an hour, so we'll start wrapping it up. But one thing I want to say is, I don't know if you've thought about it, but I love that little logo so much. Like, eventually you should make some merch stuff with that, like a t-shirt, hat, I don't know, anything else, because that's really cool. It's a really well thought out and designed logo you made.
And it, like, my wife I was like, hey, can you do this like wand and forceps thing? Here's a picture of the forceps. And she just like made it. And it was like, this is it. This is perfect. We've got crew neck sweaters that we gave away in a raffle. So I think those will be like the first thing now that winter's approaching.
Oh, nice.
Like the official merch. And then we've got these MIDWIZARD of Cosconia.
Oh, I was wondering. I thought it said wizard. I was like, is he got a cup? That's sweet.
Yeah. So
that's
those will cool. Those will go live at some point.
Okay. Nice. Very cool. Oh, and Kern agreed that red grapes are superior. That's right.
And they
are. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap up and sign off, I'm going to give you the floor to share, shout out, talk about anything you want. The floor is yours, my friend.
Cool. Yeah, really, what I would love anybody who listens to do is take the chance on a 99-cent ebook that from an author you've never heard of. All proceeds for the ebook for the entire year of 2025 are going to support women's health
That's
organizations,
awesome.
which is Cherry Health, local to me here in Grand Rapids, and Sojourner House, which is a national organization for people who deal with intimate partner violence. So take the chance, spend the 99 cents, and if you enjoy it, get the hard copy for yourself with the cool cover. And keep talking about this stuff. Talk about pregnancy, talk about miscarriages, talk about infertility. And the more you talk about it, normalize it, the easier it will be for people who are dealing with that stuff to freely talk about it. So that's kind of my 2 cents here at the end.
I love it, man. I think that's fantastic. And I think what you're doing is amazing and really special. What you're doing in your own life with your career, plus what you're doing with this book and your mission. I think it's awesome, man. And I'm with Ellen here. So much respect, and I'm with Curran too. You're awesome, man. You're awesome. And and keep doing stuff like this because you have such a great personality. You're funny, you're just engaging to talk to. So the more people even see you and get to know you, they're going to want to get behind you even more. So keep doing what you're doing.
For sure. I'll come back for book 2 in a couple months then. How's that sound?
I was just going to say, if you ever need any help, if you want to come on to just talk, if you want to come on for book 2, or when you get ready to reveal the cover, let me know. And I do little shorts and throw stuff out. So yeah, just let me know anything. This is called Beast Friends Forever for a reason, because we are Beast Friends forever now, my friend.
I'm sold. Friends forever. Love it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. This was a blast. And thank you, everybody in the chat. You guys were fantastic. Thank you for those of you watching on replay. Again, Zack's website and the book are linked in the description down below. Go check them out. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, as I always say, divide your TBRs, be brave, be beautiful to one another, and be beastly. We'll see you, everybody.